then putting my life in danger, not only my life in danger, but everybody else in danger that's close to me. They're trying to justify why they use the act, but there is no justification. But in saying that, during that process that I went through, I'd have to say I felt that what I had gone through and what these doctors did and everyone involved in this whole process of micromanaging me, leading up to the actual Mental Health Act and then admitting me and taking my liberty away, I have never felt so low in my self-esteem. They brought me to a point where I felt I was begging for my life. And they really put me at risk, because that was the most difficult time in my life when they used the act on me, because I felt I was like begging. I was begging for my life, and they were trying to make me stay in there for another 2 weeks. Now, the reason why the third doctor, she tried to convince my family to keep me admitted for another 2 weeks, and then she tried to convince the judge in the courtroom to, keep me in there for another 2 weeks. I was traumatized by that incident, because I felt I was begging my family, and I even begged the judge. And I recall walking the judge through to try and convince the judge there's nothing wrong with me. And I even tried to convince the judge that I was subject to cyberbullying. If the recording was used as evidence, the recording will actually reveal that I was begging for my life. And I don't believe it's mental health issues when you're going through talking about something that is true. But I was begging. I felt I was begging for my life. I recall ringing my son, begging, trying to get my son to believe me. He didn't know what was going on. And then my daughter, she was stressed about the whole thing, because she was also led to believe that there was something wrong with me when there wasn't, when in actual fact, what was happening to me was real and true, but they were being convinced that there was absolutely something wrong with me, but it wasn't. They were being lied to. They were being misled to support those who are wanting to destroy my reputation. And after years of pinning me down and everyone stealing off me and using me and stealing my identity and cloning me and breaking the law. At that time, my daughter was very stressed about the whole thing, because she had been convinced by these medical practitioners and whoever was doing what they were doing. And so that was a predicament I was in. I felt like I was being constrained like an animal with no rights, even though everything I was coming out of my mouth was the truth. And then, the odd time I'd have a reaction because nobody was listening to me. I was being treated invisible at work. My family were all in on it. The public, the government, everyone was in on it. But my family, I knew something wasn't right because they weren't themselves. And I don't believe, without a shadow of doubt, any of them would be involved in anything if they knew in advance what was actually going to happen, whereas I was. And they didn't even know in advance or anything of what had happened before it even come to them or to the point that they were involved, because I tried to stop it. That's where the protected disclosure came in. But that was the first time when they took my liberty away, they put me at high risk. because I felt like I was fighting for my life, and I was actually. It was like I had no rights whatsoever, except, you know, only one person that actually believed me at that time. So I wanted to challenge the doctors. I wanted the doctors to come up with why they have labelled me with post-traumatic stress disorder. I would like them to come up with evidence where other people have seen me, you know, emotionally unstable, besides the times when I'm being provoked, besides the times when I'm being provoked in a reaction because of the abuse, besides the time when I'm being tormented and emotionally abused by the people that they're using. Besides all that, because, you know, everybody's human and they react. But I'd like them to come up with evidence of why they've labelled, you know, individuals, because that is not strong enough to use the act on anybody. So I'd like to challenge, where is your evidence to prove that I have emotional traumatic stress disorder? So I'd like to challenge these doctors to come up with evidence, like real evidence, where I'm depressed or I'm an emotionally impaired sort of person, or I'm emotionally insane, because that's what they're trying to say, that I'm mentally retarded and insane. So it's actually a criminal offence if it's used incorrectly. Now, the other thing that I found in my medical records was it talked about me having a disease. Now, this is actually, I can confirm, when I didn't know anything about me having a disease until I actually read my medical records manually, and I can confirm that I didn't even know who the doctor was, but I was really upset with what I read, because it just confirmed that somebody had it in for me. It confirms that that I've been subject to a conspiracy because of the evidence that was in my profile. And I was really upset with that because it's not true. But I felt that my medical records and what has happened to me on the surface, that somebody was trying to make out that I'm dirty and that I'm a whore. And I have not had sex with anyone for like roughly 20 years. I was really upset that was in my medical records. I saw the signature and I didn't even know the doctor who wrote it. The other thing that was on my medical records was, it was also mentioned in my medical records that I was smoking. I haven't been smoking cigarettes. I gave that up 20 years ago too, you know, roughly, on or about. It's been that long. But I was definitely not smoking. I don't even know why that was even in there, because it wasn't true. And also I wanted just to quickly confirm in regards to that meeting. I did mention in that meeting about having a disability. I said to him that I'd brought up in that meeting about how I stutter and I go blank, and that was something that you know, that was a weakness that I had as an individual, if you can even call it a weakness, but it was mine. I class it as a weakness, where I stuttered and I go blank when I'm nervous or under pressure or burnt out. And so I did mention that in the meeting. So I was the one who said it was a disability because I called it as a weakness. However, medically, it has never been proven as a disability. So I thought I'd clear that, because it's really important to make that really clear, that I do not have a disability as far as being mentally impaired, other than when I get nervous, I stutter, I go blank, or when I'm burnt out or under pressure. That was just something that I I'd say was one of my weaknesses. But medically, there is no medical evidence as far as confirming that I have a disability, other than me saying that verbally, but I was referring to a weakness. But it's never been confirmed medically that I have a disability. They put even in my medical records that I'm a diabetic. I'm not a diabetic, never have been. Yes, I've had high blood pressure, and then I was diagnosed by my family GP. She said that I had high blood pressure. But by this time, like I mentioned before, I don't like medication. But if I ever got high blood pressure, it was because of the pressure and the torment and the hell that I was subject to in the moment. Also, in my medical records, it states that I was raped. I can confirm that was true.